Hello, this is just a small thing I have noticed that new players don't quite understand in Final Fantasy XIV, and I thought I would share an explanation. So, you may have noticed if you try to queue for any extreme trial on the Duty Finder, that it takes a very, very long time, often 30 plus minutes. I've seen screenshots of people waiting like 2 hours and not getting a party before. And now that's confusing because you queue for everything else here, so why don't these seem to fill? And when they do fill, you often get someone who just leaves immediately. So, why does that happen? It's because the player base, at least on the American and European servers, does not queue for extremes via the Duty Finder. These fights are very difficult and often take a very long time, so people prefer not to use these randomly matched groups. The only people that get pulled into it, aside from other people actually queuing for this exact same fight as you, are people doing mentor roulette. And a lot of mentors, whether it's polite or not, will decide it's more worth it to take the 30-minute penalty and do a different roulette instead of staying and frogging an extreme with a bunch of new people. Again, it's up to you whether that's polite or not, but it's just the way it is. So if this isn't how you queue for an extreme, then how do you do one? Because I assume if you're here that you would like to do one and are confused as to why this happens. What you need to do is you need to go to the party tab down in this little menu and open the party finder. Now you can see here people are signing up for various trials in here, extreme trials, and they want to clear them on here. So this is where you would go. So if you don't see the party up for the fight you want, you can recruit members and build your own. Now there's a few things to note about Party Finder parties. First things first, the language will matter very much on the EU servers, not as much the American servers. I've never met someone who doesn't speak English on the American servers, but sometimes you'll get people speaking other languages on the European servers. So if you only speak English, I'd suggest setting this to English, but a lot of people just don't. Now, if you want to find the fight, for example, you're a new player in A Realm Reborn, and you want to fight E3 Extreme. So you'd look for the Bull of Embers Extreme under Trials here. And you can just put a party up like this if you want to. Now, people are going to assume a few things about your party if you don't write anything. As a general rule, I'd recommend writing what you plan to do in the description if it's just a kill for the quest or you're looking for the mount or the gear or whatever. I'd always write something in the description saying what you're doing as a general rule. But there's a few sort of unspoken rules that people follow for this. If you write nothing and you're doing a trial that is not current, so you're doing a level 50 trial and not a level 90 here, people are going to automatically assume that you are using the unrestricted party setting. This means that they can show up at level 90, you'll queue in against a level 50 boss with them at level 90, and they will just beat it to death in 2 seconds flat. Particularly for Ifrit, who is very sad. So if you don't want this, if you just want to clear for your quest and or for the mount or equipment, this is perfect. Do it like this. If you'd like to get the mount, I'd recommend writing mount farm and just doing it like that. That's perfect right there. If, however, you're actually interested in trying extreme, like with the extreme difficulty, then either you wait till level 90 and do level 90 extremes, or you got to be more specific on your party finder if you want to do that for these fights. First things first, if you're not using the unrestricted party, you want to specify you are doing this synced. If you have never done this fight before, I would suggest writing something like from start, just to show people you've never done it before. Honestly, Ifrit probably dies quickly enough where this isn't even an issue, but this is just what happens at endgame, so it'll make sense to people anyway. Again, always specify what you want to do. If you've never been in the extreme fight before, I recommend doing a practice party, because you might not clear right away. You might, and that's great, but a lot of times people take multiple days and hours of prog on extremes. Ifrit is a lesser case because it's so outdated, but you know. People will still be pretty overpowered against Ifrit, even synced. So if you really want in a Realm Reborn type experience, I like, as if level 50 is current, I would also suggest using minimum item level. And maybe Silence Echo, but like that's optional. In which case, you would again specify what you want to do. Min eye level, synced, practice, or prog, whatever you want. Another thing is that people typically assume when you're going into high-end content like this, that you are watching a video guide. So if you're not watching a video guide, you want to specify you're doing a blind run. So, like, if you wanted to do it, blind synced frog, that would be perfect. That would mean you're going in, you're not watching a video guide, you're not using unrestricted party, so you are going in synced. And you are fighting it and practicing it to learn how to kill it. So that would be how you would get into an extreme for various things. Again, if you're doing it just for the mount or just to get it out of your quest log, I would just do it normally. Say, like, you know, kill for quest log, maybe set this to duty completion. And make sure when you're signing your group up, if you're the leader, like putting it up here, that you tick this in your settings when you sign everyone up. And that's the gist of how the party finder works. You'll notice as you get to higher levels, people will use prog points and such, and at level 90, people will also want to set like item level restrictions. And sometimes if they're doing farms, they might say you have to have already cleared it once to get in. So the progression there will be, first you join practice parties, like for a more current trial. Let's go to high on duty. So like Savage and Extreme are pretty much the same when it comes to prog rules, so I'll just click on P9S here. So like for example, you would say practice from start means you're doing it from the very beginning. Now, these fights have different mechanics, and you'll learn the community names if you start doing the fights. So like for example, prog from LC1 or like LC1 or like LC1 practice, for example, means you should know everything up to this mechanic. You might not know what this mechanic is looking at that, and that's okay. But you'll know what it is if you're at the point where you can practice it, because you'll have picked up the community name by then, and you can look it up if you don't know. I'm sure this stuff is online. But if you see a party like this for a current fight, do not join it if you have not been in the fight before. Only join from start parties if you have not been in the fight before. And like if this says LC2 prog, you'd better know LC1. And again, you don't need to know what those mechanics are. They're just examples because I know this fight. And then, once you've cleared once, you will usually clear in a practice party. At some point, you'll get to the last mechanic of the fight, and the people will set duty completion or practice here, and they'll say, last mech to kill, whatever the name of the last mechanic is. Like the last major prog mechanic. They'll say last mechanic into kill. And then once you've done that, then you'll go into parties like for farms or re-clears, and they'll have this restriction, so only other people who know the whole fight and have done it will come in. That doesn't matter much if you're still doing like level 50 stuff, but it's important for later. Just party finder etiquette. And that's pretty much all there is to it. If you're finding it's still filling very slowly on your data center, I would suggest looking at where you are, because ever since data center travel was introduced, a lot of stuff has moved over to one specific data center in each region. I can't speak for Materia or for the Japanese servers, but I can tell you that on the European servers, if you're not seeing any queues, you should be on light. And if you are on the American servers and you're not seeing any queues, you should be on Ether. I'm on Crystal right now, and that's why this party finder is so dead. Like it's a Friday night right now. I bet you Ether is booming. I would try to do it on your data center first, because we really should try to keep our own data centers alive and well. But if your party's not filling and you really want to get in, data center hop to Ether. You can do that right on the title screen. If you've never done it before, you just log out. And if you right click on your character name, there's visit another data center right here. I often do this to raid with my raid static. I will hop over to Ether, and for example, Genova. Any server on here is fine for using the party finder. You can pick whatever server you want. And you just hit confirm and your character goes, and then you log into them over there. Nice and easy. And that's all there is to it, really. So I hope this helps people get into extremes. I love difficult content in this game. I think it's so fun. And I'd love to see other people learn to enjoy it too. And obviously those 30+ minute queues aren't helping you do that.